Good morning, and welcome to Making Sense of It. Do you ever wonder why you do the things you do? Well, this program is for you. It is our gift to you from the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory. And each week we have a member come on and tell us something exciting about the reality therapy and choice theory or quality schools. And that needs to be someone that is certified in the modality of reality therapy. And today our speaker is James Mishler, and he is with the Quality Schools. Welcome, everyone. Sharon is here, and more will be tuning in, I'm sure. And welcome, James. It's a delight to have you. And
Thank
today he's going to be doing part 2 of winning and losing, the journey to winning. And so, James, welcome.
Okay, thank you, Mona. Appreciate your being here. Today's presentation started out as a presentation for the Quality School Committee and our monthly forum call, and I've lifted out one segment of it and I revised it to not be very schoolish. It's more for adults or young adults or even teenagers to look at and kind of get a feel for how you could put choice theory into your life and how it kind of moves on into your life. And, you know, when Mona calls and asks you to do something, it's hard to say no. And then when she says, can you make that 2 parts, it's even harder to say no. So I had to go into my Glasser creative system and come up with a 2-part program. And today is part 2. And I will start my little PowerPoint here. Just a word to the wise. I'm not very fancy in my own personal PowerPoints. I opt for simplicity and short. So this is part 2, and I will review in a minute here a little what we did in part 1. But the working title is Winning and Losing Suggestions, Reframing Your Mindset with Choice Theory Perspectives. So we started last week looking at what is winning and what is losing. And in our society tends to be binary or either or. Either you win or you lose, and if you lose, you're bad. Well, in the quality school world, winning and losing is a little bit different because we look at things from the point of view of, all right, you didn't get it right this time, but now how can you improve it and how can you make it better? And that's what we call our choice theory mindset is, how do we look at it and how do we get it better? How do we make it better? So if I reframe that a little bit, so to get away from the school thing and to just look at it from more of an adult sort of perspective, we're going to take a look at our choice theory mindset. And just to underscore the point that we're always trying to improve ourselves, if you watched last week's presentation, this slide that's going to come up here in a minute was in it. And Mona made a wonderful suggestion. And I went out and was doing some yard work and some other things on my remodeling project here. And I was thinking about Mona's suggestion. And I realized how much sense it made. So I completely flipped this chart over and revised it. So if you think you saw it last month, you did, but it isn't quite exactly like this. And when you see it, I will explain Mona's suggestion. In our choice theory mindset, we think about winning and losing as a journey. And you are on this journey and you're moving from an external control mindset where everything is outside of you, and you're moving towards being a quote winner and having internal control, and you are in control of your life. So with that, come on, there we go. If you're a high external person and you believe that the world is controlling you, I gotta move something here. My, come on, there it is. There we go. My bar there was in the way and I couldn't see what I was doing. Okay, so if you're a high control person, you're using the 7 deadly habits to control and evaluate and control yourself or control others, and to keep everybody in check. You're evaluating others instead of yourself. You believe that external control is the most effective way to do things, which means you believe that you can control other people and get them to do what you want them to do. And we in choice theory know that's not the case. And you're not satisfying your own personal needs. We have 5 needs. We all know this in choice theory. And if you're not satisfying those needs, you become out of balance, and you're out of balance. Your system is out of sync, and you feel out of sync. And rather than doing some self-evaluation and looking at it, you are blaming others. So we're going to move up the ladder now to a lesser level, or a lower level of external control. And as you move up the ladder towards getting more effective, you start to ask questions about yourself and what's going on. And you start to question, really, can I control everybody? I think I can, but I'm kind of wondering if it's really working out the way I think it should. And you're starting to realize in the 7 deadly habits, and I'll show you those here in a few minutes, you're starting to realize that the 7 deadly habits are probably causing you more harm than good. And as you do things, you start to think about, well, what's my role in what's going on? How am I doing here? What's my role in this? That's part of that self-evaluation. You're still in this level, at this level, you're still out of balance. You're still not satisfying your needs, but you're starting to think about, well, what do I really want? And what do I really want to do? And what am I really looking for? And you're starting to blame other people less. So as you move up the ladder, or on our journey towards becoming more internally controlled, we start to believe that internal control might be useful. We start using some of the caring habits. We're not doing it systematically and all the time, but we're using them, and we're trying to use them rather than to control other people. We're starting to combine our own self-evaluations along with our external evaluations. So you're saying things to yourself like, well, I'm doing this and it's probably not helping me, but they're still doing that over there. So that's not quite internal control, but you're moving slowly in that direction. And then you're beginning to balance and experience some success by meeting some of your needs and by not blaming others. Now, we're not meeting all of our needs, but we're meeting some of our needs. And finally, when you hit the high level of internal control, this is where you feel the most effective. And you believe that internal control is the most helpful, best way to go. Whoops. Come on, there we go. And you start using the caring, connecting habits on a regular basis. You're building relationships without trying to control other people. You're doing self-evaluating. And when you hit this level, you're also doing things to help other people self-evaluate. And you're more in balance. You're getting more of your needs met. Are all your needs being met the way you want? Maybe not all of them. I don't think we ever hit 5 for 5 every day. So, even the most effective people have times when they're out of balance. But you're so much more in balance, so you're now a much happier person. Now, if you remember the chart from last week, I completely flipped it around. I had a higher level of internal control down in the lower right-hand corner and the higher level of external control up in the upper left-hand corner, and you work your way down. And Mona made a really wonderful suggestion in that, really, shouldn't it be at the top? Shouldn't we be working our way up? And I hadn't really thought about it when I created the chart, and it made perfectly good sense to me. So I flipped it around. And so now you're working your way up the chart, and I thank Mona for that suggestion. Okay, so that's basically where we were at last week. That covers the nuts and bolts of it. I'm not going to cover everything that we did, but basically we're on this journey. We're moving from the external binary world that we live in to a higher level of internal control where we're in charge of ourselves and we're not in charge of everybody else around us. So where do we start? Well, step one, we need to start with, from here on out, I'm going to give you some practical suggestions, by the way. And you can write these down, or if you want, I'll give you the my email at the end, and you can send me an email and I can send you these questions or send you the PowerPoint, if you will. I'd glad to share it with anyone. But you need a piece of paper and you need to write some things down. So step one is write a list of those things that you want or things that are very important to you. And we'll use the choice theory list of needs as your starting point. So our needs are love and belong, power, freedom, fun, survival. This is our basic wish list, okay? And the reason I'm asking you to write these things down is because these things become our quality world pictures. These are the things we want. These are the things we have in our mind's eye. And because they're in our mind's eye, sometimes we lose direct contact with them. They kind of go on autopilot, if you will. And we just know that this is the way we want it. And that's the way it's always been. So what I want you to do is make a list of things that are important to you. Think about what kind of relationships you want, how your relationships are going, or not how they're going, but just what are the kind of relationships you want? What kinds of things do you want to be competent in life? In choice theory, we frequently redefine power as not power over someone, but more power over yourself. And in having power over yourself, you become more competent, you become better at doing certain things. So what things do you want to become competent at? Then, what do you want to do for freedom, to show your freedom need? What do you want to do for fun? And are all your survival needs being met? For most of us that probably watch this video, your survival needs are probably well taken care of, but that's not always the case. There may be some part that's missing in your survival scheme, your physical survival, that you need to want to work on. So make this as your wish list. And again, this is your way of connecting your conscious mind with your subconscious mind and your quality world pictures. Quality world pictures are extremely important. The reason they're important is because when you get information that comes in from the outside world, you measure that information against your own quality. You don't realize you're doing it, but you are. You're measuring it against your own quality world pictures. If the information doesn't match one of your pictures, you either accept it or reject it. You either reject it and move on, or you take a look at it and say, hey, wait a minute, this is not consistent with what I'm thinking, and now suddenly I'm out of balance and I need to do something about it. So this is the first step in how do we go on this mindset changing journey. Take a look at where you're at and what's going on. Step two. Once your task is complete, your list is done, you need to ask a simple question. How close am I getting to what I want? The things that are on my list. How close are you getting? This is the beginning of a process we refer to as self-evaluation. And it begins with this question. How close am I getting? And you need to be real honest with yourself. Don't kid yourself. Don't kind of blow this part off. It's a very important part. How close am I getting to what I want? And write your answer down. I find personally, as an anecdotal note here, that when I write things down, it has much more power for me. There's something about, and we can go into the psychology of that on another day, but there is some power in writing things down. It sort of makes things more permanent and more real to you. So once you get your list finished, ask yourself the following question. How close am I to getting what I want? And getting the things that you put on your list, okay? That's step 2. All right, step 3. So for a while, I worked in a delinquent situation where it was a special school for delinquents who were sent to us. We like to joke about they came to us with an embossed invitation signed by a judge in a court order. It's kind of our gallows humor for who we're working with. So 14, 15, 16-year-olds. And I found these questions. I didn't make these questions up. Somebody else did. And I just loved it. So I would print them out on little business cards. And we were a choice theory school. And we taught the concepts to the students. And so eventually, after they would be there for a while, these questions made a lot of sense to them. But I would pass these out, little business cards, pass them out. And when a kid got in trouble, then we would sit down, we just look at the question and say, well, what's going on right now? What are you doing? Is it helping you or hurting you? Are you getting what you want? And then the big number 3 question is, well, just exactly what do you really want? And then you come back to that question again. Is my behavior getting me closer to what I really want? Now, delinquents are an interesting group of people because they're pretty visceral. They operate on the here and now, and they don't really think too far in advance, maybe 35, 40 seconds at a time. So they're not making a lot of thought out decisions. So when you start asking, what are you really trying to do? That question becomes really hard because now they have to dig deep. And what are you saying? What am I trying to do? Well, why did you tell Mrs. Smith to go to hell? What were you really trying to do? And let's get at it. And let's talk about your behavior and what's going on. And if the kid's goal was to do something else and, achieve something else, then the question is, is that getting you closer to what you want? If it's not getting you closer, then what can you do differently? And when will I start working in that direction? So these are helpful questions. And I find as I work with more adults off and on, I find myself handing out those business cards to people on a fairly regular basis because it just helps them to refocus a little bit and stop and take a look at, well, what am I doing right now? Is this helping or hurting me? And what do I really want? And number 3 questions, what do I really want, loops back to that suggestion I just made about making the list of things that you really want. Am I working, what I'm doing right now, is that getting me closer or farther away to the things on my list and my quality world pictures? If my behavior is not getting me closer to what I want, then what can I do differently? And this is the big thing in choice theory. If we're not getting what we want, what are we doing differently? And it's hard to add, or what can we do differently? It's hard to answer question number 5 if you can't answer question number 3. If you don't know what you want, it's harder to do something different. So you have to get that want in mind, and you have to clarify it with yourself. And there are a bazillion ways, and when I was doing some research on this and something else, you can find a lot of ways to identify your wants. If you don't like my list, you can go to another one. The point is, you're trying to get in conscious contact with your autopilot quality world pictures. Okay, tough questions. All right, disconnecting habits. The ultimate question, this is a question that those faculty members and those of us that do a lot of training in choice theory, when we get to the reality therapy part of it, is what I'm about to do or say going to bring me closer or bring us closer together or drive us apart? This is in relationship building now. This is a question you ask in relationships. I've been married for 51 years, and my wife and I dated for 5 years before that. So we've been together for 56 plus years. And probably about halfway through it, I found this question. And I started asking myself this question. And some days I do really, really well. And other days I don't do so well. And I find that it helps keep me out of the doghouse if I stop and say, is what I'm about to say or do going to bring me closer or drive me further away from my wife or my friends around me? And if the question is, no, it's not going to be helpful, then there's no point in doing it or saying it. So that's a very important question. And I find this question, I joke about it, it's one of my, I'm 71 now, and one of my, I like to joke about the fact that I only have a couple social skills left as I get older. And I'm clinging desperately to the couple social skills I have. And this is one of them. This is one of the skills that I have that I like to keep working on. Is what I'm about to say or do going to bring me closer? Is it going to help me to find a solution? Or is it just going to damage a relationship needlessly? And so I look at that, and then as soon as I start asking myself that question, I start focusing on what can I do to come out with a positive outcome here. And I look at the 7 caring habits. So when you're reframing, when you're on this journey to move away from external control and move towards internal control, this is one of the steps that you can take, is to get a hold of your thinking and what your behavior, your own personal behavior, and do that quick self-evaluation. So I just find this question very helpful. I have little postcards. As a matter of fact, there's a magnet that I think Glasser.com, the official bookstore of the Glasser company, and I think they sell these as a magnet. I have several magnets. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at one right now, just right in front of my eyes here. So I keep it when I'm working at my desk here. That's a reminder there all the time. So that's the ultimate question. And on our journey, it's a question that we have to keep asking. Is what I'm about to say or do going to bring us closer together or drive us further apart? Is it going to help me satisfy some of my needs, or is it just going to create more havoc in my life? And if the answer is going to create more havoc, then don't go down that rabbit hole, don't go down that road, and focus on your 7 caring habits. Now, to that end, I can't even remember I was at a workshop probably 15, 16 years ago, and someone passed out this sheet. And I've probably used it over the years, probably with 1,500 or so, 2,000 people in different situations. That's cumulative. And it's really a very powerful thing. So what you do, and you can create this sheet very easily for yourself. And again, if you want the PowerPoint, I can send it to you and you can create your own. But you list your connecting habits down one side, and you list the important people going across on the top column. Pretty straightforward. And then you go and you rate yourself on how well you use a supporting connecting habit with your spouse. And you rate yourself on a 1 to 10. And then you go through and how do you use supporting with your children, with your colleagues at work, with your clients, friends, with yourself? Do you support yourself? Sometimes we don't think about our self-talk very much. And we say a lot of negative things to us, and we engage in a lot of negative habits. And we'll get to that in a minute when it comes to ourselves. So be sure to include yourself in this. And when you're all done going through all the different habits, rating yourself 1 to 10, 10 being high, 1 being low. So if you are supportive of your spouse and you feel pretty good about it and you think you're an 8 or 9, put an 8 or 9, put a 9 there, and so on across the board. and just add up your rows and add up your columns. Now, I'll tell you right now, there is absolutely zero, none, statistical background behind this chart. It is merely to illustrate a point. It is not a test. It is not a deep psychological statement about you. It's a statement of kind of where you're at right at the moment. But it highlights some things about you and how you operate if you answer these questions honestly. So there's one for using the positive connecting habits, and the next one is for using the disconnecting habits. Same thing, same structure. If you use a lot of criticizing with your spouse, give yourself a 10. If you don't criticize your spouse very often or your children, give yourself a 1, and then go across the board to all the different people. And how do you do blaming and complaining? And again, rate yourself 1 to 10. It never fails. In all the times that I do this, I pass this out and I give the participants in whatever the presentation is, I give them, anywhere from 8 to 12, 13 minutes to do this. That's how long it takes to do it. And I give it to them. And when I look around the group, depending on the size, again, it all depends on the size of the group. And I see that everybody's about finished. Then I start in and I ask, don't answer this question just yet, but what's the most profound thing you just discovered about yourself? And without a doubt, I will ask that question, and there will be a moment of very deep silence. It has never failed. On all the groups I've done this with, it never fails. People in the group get suddenly very, very quiet. If there was a lot of chit chat and lighthearted banter going back and forth, at that moment when I say, what profound thing have you learned about yourself? And it gets real quiet, profoundly so. I mean, just really super quiet. And so then I let that rest for a few seconds, probably half a minute maybe. And I say, okay, anybody dare to share? You don't have to share, but if you don't want to share, just share. And inevitably, and I wish I'd kept statistics on this part of it, but I'm not a researcher, so I don't always collect statistics, but inevitably, people will say things like, I use the disconnecting habits more with my spouse and my children than I do with my colleagues at work. And that's a pretty profound statement. Why is it so hard to use the connecting habits with your spouse and your children as opposed to with your colleagues at work? And the other one is when they get over to the personal one, me, they start to realize I'm looking at these criticizing, blaming habits, negative things about myself more than I thought. I always thought I was pretty upbeat, but when you actually ask me this question, it becomes something really, really different. And it's a very, very profound thing. And if you're looking at this and you actually go through this activity on your own and do your own rating, and you see something like, why, I'm doing negative things with my spouse or my partner, what do I need to do differently? Remember that tough question? If it's driving a wedge between me, not bringing me closer in my relationships, if it's not helping me, then what do I need to do differently? If it's not helping, what can I do different? And it's at this point where you can start to, again, we're on this journey, we're moving from external control to internal control up to kind of a high level of internal control and helping others. and being more positive and thinking through things more. What can I do to improve myself here? What can I do to change? What do I have to change? And really, when you talk about change and making a little plan, it doesn't take much. Just say, well, I'm going to try not to complain so much. For a week, I'm going to work on not complaining, especially to my spouse or my children. And let's just see what happens. I'm not going to criticize. Maybe the second week, third week down the road, I'm going to work on not criticizing. So set a plan for yourself that's easy to make, that you can focus on. Don't make an elaborate plan. Don't make it huge and elaborate and difficult and ensuring failure, but make it simple. I'm going to try to only criticize my husband once a day and not 5 times a day. That's a big challenge, but for some people. And so anyway, keep it simple and keep it short. Okay. So this is a very, very powerful little self-evaluation. Okay. Back to those questions again. I love these questions. They make a sense. If you're looking at using the disconnecting habits, and you ask yourself, what am I doing right now? Is it helping or hurting? What would I really like to have happen right now? So I just criticized my child. What did I really want to have happen? What would I really like to see? And sometimes we criticize it, and again, it's almost on an autopilot. We do it, we don't even think about it. And so you criticize your child, and then you realize, oh, this didn't have the effect I thought it was going to have. And so you have to ask yourself, what do I really want? What would I really like to see? If I'm criticizing my child for something they're doing, what would I really like? And then ask yourself, well, if that's what I really like, is my criticizing that behavior getting me closer? And if the answer is no, then you have to ask question number 5 is, what can I do differently to get what I want? You can't answer question 5 without answering question 3. What do you really want? And if you answer it and you answer it honestly, then you can say, all right, I can do something different. What can I do different? And in kind of more layman terms, for question number 5, this is a plan. Make a plan. And we always talk about keeping the plan simple. Keep it short, keep it easy to do, keep it something that you definitely can accomplish. Don't make it too complicated. Just keep it simple. And then in reality therapy, one of the key ending questions in a reality therapy interview is, when will I start working in that direction? When am I going to start my plan? We all make plans. The question is, do we all start our plans? And if we don't all start our plans, when am I going to start this plan? How serious am I about this? Do I really want to change? Or if I'm just, it's not that big a deal, am I going to worry about it? And if it's not that big a deal and you're not going to worry about it, then you're going to go right back into that loop, and you're going to be right back where you started before. You're going to be on that negative loop that goes around and around and around, and you're going to continue to not get what you want. Okay, so I'm going to reframe this just a little bit different. So Dr. Glasser has what he calls a CSER strategy for student self-evaluation. So I'm going to share the CSER. We love this particular little chart in the Quality School Committee. I think it comes up in probably every other presentation that we do at least once somewhere. So it works like this. You show your work, whatever it is, you show it. This is for students now. You explain how you did it. You do a self-evaluation of work. How well did I do? You identify ways you can improve your work, okay? And you repeat that, you identify your ways, and implied with identify is that you're going to create a plan to do whatever you identified for improvements. So if you got 10 math problems wrong, you looked at them to see why they were wrong, and you identify ways, well, how can I fix that? Fine. If you're writing a report and your report comes up, it isn't quite what you want, how can I improve this report? You make your list of improvements, you make a plan to go back and rewrite the report and include your improvements in it. So identifying ways to improve also implies having a plan. And then you just repeat this, because it's a self-evaluation is a continuous improvement model. You always self-evaluate, you always do your self-improvement, you're always trying to move forward. So I took a few literary liberties here, and I revised Dr. Glasser's strategy, and this time we're going to call it a strategy for adult self-evaluation. And so I'm saying self-evaluate. What's your current situation? What's the progress towards your wants or relationships? So you're going to start by asking the question there, what do I want? What do I really want? And that sort of thing. And then explain how you're doing, or explain how you're doing now, or how you arrived at this point. So just stop and think for a second. You're an adult, you just criticized your child or your spouse for something, and just stop and ask yourself the question, how did I get here? What was I really trying to accomplish? What's going on in this particular situation? In different terms, we might think of it as more like being more mindful about your current present state. Where am I at right now? And why, not asking why, but how did I get here? And then we move on. Well, if this is where I'm at and this is what I'm doing, how can I improve the situation? All right. And then finally, again, identify ways to improve. The plan is inherent. I'm going to repeat that. This particular configuration does not lend itself to any acronym that makes any sense, so I just didn't even bother creating one, but it illustrates the point. Thinking about this in a slightly different way, I like to talk about the fact that I'm an amateur woodworker. I love tools. I love to play with tools. I've got a few scars to prove it, and so on. I like making things. And just as an example, when I make something as a gift for somebody, for me, that ticks off 4 of the 5 basic needs. When I make a gift for somebody, it out of wood, it ticks off all of the basic needs for me, except survival. Now, if I sold it to buy food, then survival makes it 5, makes it the grand slam. But if you just think about it for a minute, you're in a woodworking project. I'm going to make a gift for somebody. And so I create a plan, I execute the plan, and then I stop and look at it when I'm done and ask myself, well, did this thing turn out the way I thought it would? And if it didn't turn out the way I thought it would, what can I do differently? How can I make this better? What can I do? How can I improve this? Because I want it. I want to do this. And so I go through the improvement. And sometimes I have a box of what I call my prototype box, but it's really my box of first time mistakes. And I like to look at it and keep some of my first time mistakes on a project. So when I go to do it again, I look at it and say, oh yeah, I remember what I did there. But if you think about it, I executed a plan so that takes care of my power need because I feel competent. I created something, I feel good about creating it, and it turned out the way I wanted, it looked the way I wanted it. So that's my power need. I had fun doing it. I really enjoy it. So that's my fun need. I got my freedom need because I chose to do what I wanted to do, and I chose to do it the way I wanted to do it. So that ticked off my freedom. And at the end, it's my love and belonging need because I'm going to give this to someone as a gift, and that helps build a relationship. So right there, I get 4 of the 5 basic needs. And I frequently use these questions on the right hand of your screen there, where I'm looking at my progress, at the situation. And this is just routine everyday things. I'm working in my little wood shop, and I'm just looking at my progress and is this the way I want it to be? If it's not the way I want it to be, then I need to figure out what's going on and then figure out how I can change it. So I like that the little self-evaluation there. It's a self-evaluation thing that you can do in any time, anywhere, any day, depending on the situation. And I try to at least once a day do a self-evaluation of, well, what am I doing? Is this the way I want it to go? When I'm working on this PowerPoint, is this PowerPoint saying what I want it to say? Can I get the idea across, and so on and so forth? And when I deliver the PowerPoint and after I'm done here, I'll say, well, how'd that go? In my quiet time, I'll say, how'd that go? Could I have done something a little bit differently? So I'm going to scoot back real quick here. I'm going back to our chart, and I'm going to one more time, take a look at this and say, how are we moving in our journey to change our mindset? We want to change our mindset from being controlled by other people, allowing other people to control us, or trying to control other people, blaming other people, and believing that that's all the way the world should work. Or am I believing that me having my own control, me making some choices, me using the connecting habits and building quality relationships without trying to control people, and me doing my own self-evaluation and then helping other people self-evaluate? Am I at that high level of internal control? That's the journey that we're on. That's the journey that we have to go through. So when we change our mindset from winning to losing, if you're in an external world, you're probably losing in a binary sense because your needs aren't getting met and you're not happy. If you're in an internal control world, as choice theory would advocate, then you're a winner and you've changed your mindset. On that note, again, I will thank you for all coming along in this little journey. I've enjoyed it. If you'd like a copy of the PowerPoint, feel free to contact me. There isn't anything I've used in this PowerPoint that's copyrighted or protected because I've probably taken most of it from somewhere else anyway. So you're welcome to it as well. I'm passing it forward. So that concludes what I have to say. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will give the floor back to Mona.
Yes, Jim, that was really, really good. Appreciate it very much. Basically, we are looking at thinking things through, getting real honest with ourselves, keeping it short, keeping it simple. Yeah. So really good, really good, really good. And what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And sometimes whenever we come up with what we want, it is the end product rather than helping it to grow. So as I was sitting here thinking, what do you want? Well, I want $1 million. If we could begin to look at it, keeping it short and simple, I want enough. What do you want? Well, I want, if it's fame or whatever, well, I want to be relatable. As we can begin to keep it short and simple.
I just want my kids to wash the dishes.
Good luck.
And maybe just maybe if I'm in there with them and we're talking together and we're helping each other out, it can be more relatable all the way across. Okay. Well, thank you very much. And thank those of you that will be tuning in later and that are here now. So we're going to close down this, stop the recording, and we'll have a chat with those that are here with us live.